Hey guys, it's TF Now. Welcome back to the channel, and this week I'm going to try to get through some reviews of recently re-released MAFEX figures. Today we're going to be taking a look at, of course, the Medicom Toy MAFEX DC Comics figure number 126, black version of Batman from Batman Hush. Very excited to finally have this re-released Batman Hush figure here. For years, people have been saying that Hush Batman from the MAFEX line is one of the best Batmans of all time. There was a bit of a time where I kind of stayed away from MAFEX, where I just really wasn't digging the company as a whole. But as of this year, I've been getting some more of their stuff, and been wanting to get some of the re-released stuff, so thankfully these past couple months they re-released Catwoman, Superman, and now this black Batman here that I got off Hoppy Genki for about 75 bucks after shipping. So I'm very glad to finally have a Hush Batman in my collection. You've been looking at the packaging, the 360 shot here, for a while. There's not much for me to go into super, a lot of detail about. A lot of you are familiar with this figure and the packaging by now. I do want to say that the inside of the box is very cool with a really nice illustration from the comics of Hush Batman, so that's sick. Anyway, here is the figure out of the packaging. Very happy to finally have it in my collection. I really should not have slept on this figure. While I wish they did re-release the blue version, I am still very happy to have a Hush Batman from MAFEX in my collection. Let's go ahead and take a look at the accessories, then we'll take a close look at the figure. So I don't believe the previous black version of Hush Batman came with this particular stand here. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we do have it re-released here. I will tell you, this is an image I reuse from a lot of different reviews, but it's because they all come with the exact same, accessories for the stands, where I don't really need to open all the bags of these stands every time. So what you see here is what you're getting with the re-release. It's the standard base system that we have. The base has different ports on there. You have a stationary neck and an adjustable neck with a couple of joints on there. It's different C-grips, different attachments, and whatnot. The previous one did not come with the stand because this was the stand last time. I'm pretty sure it was just this. This gargoyle base here is so cool, so nicely sculpted. It is a beautiful piece. Really nice variations of gray paint and, just lighter and darker paint. Looks like it's dry brushy in certain areas. Everything looks great. The cracks on the concrete, the way that the eagle head looks on here. All of that great sculpting. It is so well detailed. You even get detailing on the bottom here. It's not the prettiest because of the seam lines where they glued the plastic and all that. You do have how the brick looks here. There's some cracks in there. All of that concrete sculpting is so good. Now it is a hollow bottom here. There's nothing on the bottom, which is fine. Again, some shading of variations. Lighter gray going on in here. Darker gray getting close to the bricks. This right here is where you would port in the different base pieces, and then he could stand on this with one foot like he does in the comic panel, of course. So yeah, that is really sick. Now let's talk about the alternate head he comes with, because he's packaged with the stern expression, and this is the, of course, gritting teeth expression. Now I know I complain about MAFEX's QC a little too much. QC is going to happen with a bunch of companies no matter what. But we do have skin tone on the black there. That's not the prettiest. I might be able to fix that on my own, but I'm not going to be able to do that right now. There's also, in some areas, I feel like it's not as bad as when I took it out of the box. But there's some areas where, I think there's gray paint too. It's a little glossy in the black, like up here. It's not that noticeable in the viewfinder, but in person it's a little noticeable of how glossy this looks compared to the rest of this matte finish on here. You can actually get a better idea of that on the cheek, right where my thumbnail is. So there's that. It's not, I mean, everything is still consistent. It still looks black, so it's really not the biggest deal, I would say. I'm going to go ahead and pop this onto the head because I'm not going to be able to take a whole bunch of photos this time around. But yeah, that fits on there really nice. I do wish they also gave this particular Batman the Bruce Wayne neck piece, just like the blue one. But I think that having the gargoyle instead is pretty nice. So the figure comes packaged with normal fists. These hands, which I still love how they do this system where you could port these in there and it's like hand storage basically. These have a little bit of separation with the rest of the fingers and the thumb, so you can hold a battering. Let's confirm that. Pretty sure that's how it's supposed to work. And it may scuff the silver plastic a bit if you leave it in there too long, but yeah, it fits in there very nicely. And it's just in a, one tone of black paint. It looks matte in some areas and a little bit glossy, but like in a natural way, because how the light hits it, it looks a little glossy. Yeah, that's pretty sick. We also have the more relaxed hands here. There's not much going on with the detailing on the palms. With the back of the hand, you can see a little bit of detailing on the knuckles. Those look good. You have these more sprawled out finger action type pose hands, and these also look very nice. You also get these hands, which they kind of look like they're wanting to hold a grapple gun or doing different types of fighting poses. But someone brought up in the Robert Pattinson Batman review that there's a pair of hands with that figure that's actually meant for holding the cape. So I think that this is a similar thing here, that these hands are meant for holding the cape when he wants to do like jumping or flying poses. So that is sick. You also get the hands here that have the grapple guns sculpted in there. You don't get a separate grapple gun, but I mean, you don't really need that because of these. It's ambidextrous, is really nice. They're pretty much the exact same sculpt the way it's done, and well, actually not, but I mean they both these look the exact same. And you have some really nice metallic silver paint with some black paint going on in there. This is where you would port in. Just do an example and be careful with this, shall we? This looks like a metal piece for this grapple gun. I think it just ports in there like so. It might be able to go in a little bit more, but I'm not going to risk it. And yeah, it just pops in there like that. And then again, all that looks really nice. You see how the thumbs are on the button mechanism there. So that's cool. Then you have these pair of hands that come with smaller batarangs in between each finger. It looks like the black paint is splotched onto the silver a little too much. It's kind of hard to get the silver paint in there when it's so close to the side of the index finger, so I'm not going to get mad about that. The rest of it though, the silver paint is really clean. We have two of these exact same type of more curved batarangs, so let's take a look at just one of these. Very nice silver paint going on in here, a little bit of sculpting right down in the middle. And then you also have these more straight looking, like from side to side, they're more straight batarangs. There's two of these, and they're a little bit hard for me to grab right now. So just take a look at this. It's pretty bright in the light, but again, same silver paint as the ones that we just saw. So that's sick. I already kind of went over this, but this is the unshot version of the grapple hook with a really nice silver paint. This could be actually plastic, but it does kind of look more like metal here, the way that this little piece is done. And you just port that into one of the grapple guns, and then you have it where it's shot here to where it's not a bendy wire. I really don't think it's a bendy wire. Yeah, it does not feel like it wants to move at all. So I feel like it should have been a bendy wire. It's also a little crooked at the top here, but that still looks really good. So we definitely get a ton of stuff with this figure. Finally, looking at the figure here, and I want to mention something that's a little weird, but hear me out with this particular figure. Over the years, when I've seen it with like toy photography or promotional images when MAFEX released it, I always thought it looked fantastic, but comparing it with certain figures, even within the Hush line here, it kind of seemed either proportionally like small or just like not properly scaled with other Hush figures, where it just looks a little smaller and a little too skinnier. I don't know what it was. It wasn't always a big deal, of course, but to me it just looked a little small. Experiencing this in person, there is nothing wrong with the size or proportions of this figure. Maybe the head is a little too small. Maybe it sits up a little too high. I don't really know, but it doesn't look bad at all. Like having them foot to foot on the bottom here and side by side, yeah, you can see that Nightwing is not going to be as tall as Batman. So yeah, this thing is really nicely proportioned and really nicely scaled. So that criticism I've always had in the back of my mind is no longer valid. The head sculpt here looks fantastic. Again, I do think the blue would have looked a little nicer in the collection, but I still like the black and gray look, of course. And the way that they did it here with the black paint on here is really nice. We don't get that much of the glossiness I was talking about on this particular figure. maybe a little bit on the left eyebrow there. I'm moving it a little bit. You can see it with the light shining through it a tiny bit. There might be a little bit of a heavier black paint in that seam line on the mouth. Not really a seam line, is it? Just a little bit of a speck there, but it's not very noticeable to me. The protruding ears detail, like on the side here, and then these sticking up, look really good. It's all just one base coat of black, of course, but the skin tone is also really nice. You have the different detailing, you know, around the mouth and all that. And there's no splotching on this particular head, so that's really fantastic. The neck piece also has, you know, same coat of paint. It's very consistent. There's no glossiness going on. The bone structure in there is nice. This little, you know, shoulder piece for the cowl, all plastic, looking really good. So we do have this more of a freer, like flowing type of fabric for the cape here. The Pattinson Batman has more of a fake leather type material. So with this, it feels a little loose, posing it around sometimes. Of course, you have the bendy wire, so things actually will stay and look like they flow naturally pretty well. And then if you want to make it flow down again, you just fix that up and there you go. It's a really nice, soft material here. I can't tell you if the fake leather would be easier to pose with than this. I think this would be actually easier to pose with. Not that the fake leather was bad in the Pattinson Batman, but something I just kind of realized, you know. It still is really sick. Yeah, so, and then the quality here, like the stitching and like the way that they cut the fabric, everything is really clean. There is nothing wrong going on with this cape. It's fantastic. Looking at the rest of the body, which it's kind of hard to show off because of the cape covering a lot of things. You see going on here, really nice musculature. There's a little bit of like some dark shading going on in some parts of the muscles. Of course, you see that sculpted detail of the, you know, the sculpted detail redundant. Anyway, you see the detail of separation between the, you know, bat logo on his chest and the gray here, and the paint in there is really nice. Again, there's just certain areas that I can't tell if there's gray splotched on here or if it's something glossy going on the black. This is not the first MAFEX figure to have like a glossy thing going on when some things should be matte, but it's still like everything looks really good, and it's really not a big deal what I'm seeing right here. It's just something I'm noticing while I'm looking at this figure. And I want to mention it while, you know, I'm doing the review. The detail in the back is crazy. That is insane. Look at the really nice sculpting there. I do think, you know, we have black shading around here. I think the shading gets cut off a little bit going on this, you know, separate piece for the articulation, to where it just looks gray and doesn't have any shading. But it still is a very consistent gray with all of this. Like, I honestly can't tell that there's no shading on here. It's very nice looking. And hey, look, they actually got DC on there this time instead of Marvel. That's still so funny to me. Again, like, everything looks so good. It's a very basic design for Batman, of course, but it's always looked so good and it works so well with this figure. The muscles and the shoulders and the arms look great. And then you do have sculpted separation of the gray and black here. You have the you know, little claw pieces that are always on the gauntlets. They look fantastic. I think that the wrist pegs look a little small to me, but that doesn't matter because you're going to be articulating it. So, yeah, that's fine, honestly. The fists here look really good. It's easy to pop these off. How easy to put it on there? Easy enough. Can you rotate this without breaking anything? Yeah, it doesn't feel very stiff right now, but I'm always going to be careful of wrist joints on MAFEX figures, and you should too. The belt here is fantastic. The yellow on here looks really good. This is a more separate piece. I do believe it's ported into the back, so it's not completely removable, and you really wouldn't want to anyway. All these pouches look great. It's mostly one tone of yellow here, but it all looks great with the sculpting on the pouches. The trunks look good too. They're in a matte black here with a little bit of wrinkles around the hips, wrinkles on the butt there, the bat butt. And then you do, I think there might be a little bit of black splotching here, but when you're rotating things around, you're not going to notice that. The detailing in the like muscles on the upper thighs, really great. I think there's also some black shading, or very dark gray shading, I should say, going on in the muscles here. There's just shading all throughout this figure, man. It's really, really beautiful. And like the detailing of the muscles, everything is great. Again, and I love the design of this outfit, but with how it could be considered plain, what they do get detailed in here with the muscles, they nail. Like, they go top notch with the muscles. Again, there's some shading on the knees, so that's cool. Is there anything on the back of the knees? A little bit of shading on the back of the thighs. I think a little bit on the back of the knees too. And then there's the sculpted separation of the black and the gray around the boots, around the shins. And all that looks good. The black looks really nicely done. And then you get the boots here, the feet on the bottom. And it seems like this little peg for the toe hinge is sticking out a little too much. I think that's fine, though. I don't think it's going to come undone or anything. Then there is the treading on the bottom of the feet, and they look fantastic. This is just, I mean, you guys know how nice it's sculpted right now, but for me personally, finally experiencing it, it's so well done. For the articulation section, I wanted to pop off the head real quick. We do have the dumbbell joint for MAFEX figures where it is also slightly bent, so that assists with, different articulation, especially getting this head to look up too. Not that it really has a problem, because you also have the joint going on into the torso here from the neck. That's as far up as it wants to go. That's crazy. Going down is really good. Side to side motion. I think it's a little stiff in some. Once you get something to budge a little bit, it moves around. It's a little stiff at some points, but by no means do I think it's going to break. Swiveling around, like all this side to side and range of motion is fantastic. We do have butterfly joints here. I feel like some of the paint could scuff a little bit, so be careful with that if you have this or you're going to get it. That's as far back, forward and back as it wants to go, excuse me. It can move up and down a little bit around here too. The arm can go out that much and then down like so. It sits down very flush and all that. Very cool. Upper arm swivel. Double jointed elbow. Actually bends, yeah, really nice. I thought it was going to be stiff, but it's not too stiff. Maybe pushing this. I think it's not supposed to go back any farther. I kind of went over the wrist articulation already. Standard wrist articulation. Again, be careful with the wrists. Ball joint here, ball joint here. So it allows for swiveling side to side, which is not the greatest here. And then forward and back, which kind of gaps a little bit when you go back, of course. But then you have range of motion here, and then way better side to side, and then forward and back is even better here. So that's as far forward and far back as it goes. Really fantastic. I think far back could be a tiny bit better. These legs can drop down a little bit, so you can make it kick out like this, like all the way. That is really sick. Again, be careful with scuffing the black on the gray. Splits. We do have upper thigh swivel in here, which actually gets a lot of good range of motion, but by no means is it a full 360. Double jointed knee here. Things with this figure are stiff, but when you need it to move into a particular pose, it will move really well, and then it will lock into that pose. And then same thing, moving it back out. Like, it's just such good engineering from MAFEX. Forgot to mention you have this plastic piece covering this side of the ankle here, so you see this more exposed ankle piece there. Forward on the foot, down really well. It can swivel here, and then you have a little bit of an ankle rocker, and then a toe hinge. Measuring out the figure, we're looking at around 16 to 16.5 centimeters, whether we want to, measure to the top of his actual head or to the top of the ears. Either way, you're looking at around 6.5 inches for this figure. This guy is going to be a little bit taller than this year's Hush Nightwing, which he should, and they look really great together. He might be the same height or a little bit shorter than the Pattinson Batman. I think that figure is a little too tall, but still, it's a fantastic figure. You can see how tall it is with Marvel Legends. They'll go pretty well together. And then over on the far right, a MAFEX Scarlet Spider is going to be a tiny bit shorter or about the same height too. Overall, you guys don't need me to tell you how good this figure is. It's been out for a couple years. The blue version's been out longer than this one, actually. And it is such a fantastic figure. I really should not have slept on it for this long like I have, but I'm finally glad to have it in my collection. My particular one here isn't perfect. There's a couple of paint splotching QC issues here and some glossiness in some parts of the matte black here. That's it. I don't think there's another problem that I have with this figure besides those two I just mentioned. This is such a solid figure. The articulation, when you need it to move, it's very smooth. When you need it to lock in, it is very solid. It's such good engineering for this particular figure. The sculpting, the paint shading, the details, it's all really fantastic. The wired cape here is also really sick. All of those different accessories are so good. The gargoyle base is also fantastic. And the fact that, again, I could be wrong with the previous version, but that you get the classic stand this time around and the gargoyles, you don't have to just, borrow from a different figure in your collection if you want to use the clear stand. This one will come with it now. That's really cool that they included that. It's such a great piece. I will say this one is going to be harder to track down compared to Catwoman and Superman. I think you could still get those two on BBTS, whereas this one here is sold out in a lot of places, but I don't know. Hopefully someone will have one available. I'll try to leave links in the description below. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comment down below what you think about the figure, what you think about the review. Leave a like, share amongst your friends, follow me on Instagram for more content over there, and I'll see you guys later.